presence of a quorum, I will now call the Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee to order at 3:01 on January 12th, and we'll start with a roll call vote. Craig, not vote.
Present.
Sarah Bess. Sarah Bess.
Sarah Bess present. Can you hear me?
No, I can.
Okay.
Whoa. Peter.
Peter present.
Jennifer.
Present.
Irv.
Present.
Allison.
Present.
Margaret.
Present.
And Ben also present. And we'll jump right into it. Before we get started, I just want to point out that we aren't here to debate much of anything today. We're basically here for these three motions, and that's about it. We'll have public comment at the end in interest of respect, out of respect for folks' time. I know a lot of people changed up schedules in order to be here, myself included. So without further ado, I'm going to suggest that we push off motion 1 unless there's any objection. Does anyone have an opinion?
Sorry. Hi, Ben. Sorry, you just said push off motion 1, the motion that's listed in the thing. And I didn't realize there was a third motion. So I need a minute to read the three motions before I can agree to pushing off a motion. Can we take a minute?
Oh, no, absolutely. And I in light of how recently that came in, I think we all should probably take a minute, continue discussion at 3:05. Is that realistic? Head nod, thumbs. All right. So I'll give folks a minute. Allison?
Yeah, I just wondered if there was a desire to hear the full update because there's a memo that got attached as well, before we even consider any of the motions, just to hear that update. I mean, you're up to you, but I think each motion describes different numbers, and yet there's also a memo attached that might be helpful just to have a quick synopsis of that.
Yep, we can do that before we consider either of the two motions on the table. I'll take Peter and then Irv.
Yeah, I also just noticed that representative from the boosters is here as well. If they want, if you wanted to invite them to provide an update on fundraising.
Yep, and Irv.
No, I was just going to second what Allison said.
All right. So we'll give it another minute, and then I will let. Oh. And then I'll let Doug present that if he could, the memo. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. The representative, Mary Clay is the representative from the boosters, just let me know she's having network technical problems, so she's going to try to keep connected.
Fair. All right. Has everybody had a chance to read and process the two motions that we're going to consider today? Irv, go ahead.
This was raised before, but I just want to make sure we get there, is to know whether or not the funds have or have not been raised that are in question.
Right. Again, Irv?
No. That was my attempt to lower my hand, Ben.
Okay. Allison?
Yeah, I think that was my question also, because the memo suggests one thing and might determine which motion we consider, because the motions are mutually exclusive to a certain extent. So I think we first need to hear, like, understand this update that's in the memo, and then move from there. And then somebody needs to make a motion in order for us to consider it, I think.
Absolutely. Margaret, go ahead.
I would like just a few more minutes to look at these amendments. I'm sorry if it's keeping everybody else up, but I just want to make sure I really understand the difference.
Hey, no problem at all. Absolutely. In the meantime, Doug or Mike, could one of you present the memo so we can see that on the screen while we wait? Peter?
So just if you're trying to deduce what the difference is between motion 1 and motion 3, so I submitted motion 3, and the difference is the insertion at the beginning of the phrase that starts provided that. So it's provided that yada 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 yada, at least $331,000, and then after that it's the same motion. Just FYI, if you're looking for what the differences are.
Okay, thanks.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so perhaps Doug can read the first section of the memo, and I can provide the answer to a question about where we are in terms of fundraising directly with, because Mary was in the meeting, and I understand from Peter that she's having trouble getting back in, but I can read their latest update that we've received so that that information comes out. So maybe Doug could just read that top section, and then I can offer that additional update for the boosters on funding, if that's okay with the chair.
Yep, that works.
All right. So in March of 2022, the Regional School Committee voted a debt authorization which allowed for 2 different track and fields project options. For one of the options, certain outside funding sources needed to be identified for the committee to determine if that option would be the one pursued. I've reached out to Bond Counsel to provide some additional clarity relative to the language in the original debt authorization. Namely, regarding the phrase in the debt authorization, committee should determine on or before January 16, 2023, that at least $2,200,000 has been raised through other sources. Council replied, we suggested that language so that the committee can have some discretion on the availability of the granted funds. For example, certain of the funds may be in hand while others are pledges that have not yet been received. Here the committee can vote to determine that, in their judgment, they have a suitable assurances that the $2.2 million is or will be available. Additionally, I posed the question whether in-kind donations are acceptable in the same way as pledges of actual dollars. Council replied that they are, but it is best to use conservative estimates of their value. So there's sort of 2 pieces there that we asked and got responses for.
I think I can pick up from where Doug left off, because I think the question in terms of the public funds was known before this meeting. But in terms of the private fundraising, and I think we talked about this last time, that roughly 331,000 was needed. And the email I received, well, it was sent last night, I received it this morning from the hurricane boosters. I'll just read it directly. I wish our commitments met the $331,000, but this time, 5 days earlier than our deadline, we have not met that number, and our number is $274,858 committed. You will see that we have multiple outstanding asks and pending requests. We did have one 1623 as our target. Even though this is 5 days early, we received $25,000 today, and we are hopeful that either a large money or an in-kind offer will be forthcoming, either or both the Family Foundation and the Greenlight Construction Company is affiliated with Family Foundation number 2. And that's the update on funding from the boosters that was requested. So I think we'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you. Does anybody need more time with the memo at all? Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to let you know, it looks like maybe a member of the boosters has just connected, Angela Mills.
Angela, did you want to chime in? You can raise your hand. If so, there we go.
So I'm here to answer questions if you have questions, and we tried to be as transparent as possible with our spreadsheet. We have many asks that are still out there, and to be completely honest with you, it's a difficult time to be raising money. I don't know if any of you have investments in the stock market, but it hasn't been a banner year. So we are turning and we are out there. We've tried really hard to be respectful of the other major projects in town. We've tried not to overlap with the Jones Library fundraising. We've been really respectful and have been in contact with their leadership. So I'm here if you have questions, and thanks so much for taking this up today.
Thank you. Jennifer, go ahead.
Thanks. So first, Angela and boosters, I want to say congratulations on the fundraising that you have done. I mean, to have 81,000 in hand in such a short period of time is really impressive. I really commend you for the hard work that I know you've done. I guess my one question is about the local bank donation of 50 grand. It says in the spreadsheet that the superintendent forwarded to us earlier, it says need written commitment, and that they wants to help with matching fund events 25/25. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So that local bank came in the last 48 hours. They would like to donate 25,000 upfront, and then they are willing to help coordinate with us to host events around town to highlight our students and to do and to help us raise an additional match of 25,000 from the community. My understanding after speaking with the bank representative was that we would work in coordination with their marketing team to highlight not just student athletes, but also our performers and our musical talent and our scholars. And they are seeing this as like a kickoff event for them to become partners with our public school system.
That's great. And so the 25,000 is not, they're not saying if you raise 25, an extra 25, then we'll give you 25. Have they committed to the 25?
As a verbal agreement, yes. My understanding, and I did ask that specific question, wasn't that it was contingent on another 25 raised in the community. It was they're committed to donating 25 in the hopes that it will spur through these events another 25 from the community.
Thank you.
And before I take Peter, I just want to acknowledge that Mary Clays from the Booster Club is also here. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks very much to the boosters for attending. And of course, congratulations for our Herculean effort of fundraising. It's pretty amazing. So just if you could just speak to like the status of the in-kind contributions that are pretty substantial in terms of what they could potentially be. And so if you just could describe what do you know conservatively is committed to right now, and also do you think that in the next 4 days that there could be further movement on express commitment of that?
Okay. And thanks for covering for me. Sorry, I've had technical difficulties. I'm in the courthouse and the computer system is not used to Google Meets. It's used to Zooms, but in any event. So I'm on my phone with the fingers crossed that I could maintain stable connection. Yes, the in-kind is very likely, highly likely a substantial amount without disclosing, privacy related issues. It's actually a place that's a longtime supporter. It's a matter of just figuring out some logistics. And that's why there's that huge range from anywhere from 200 to 800,000 in kind. This particular potential donor has been in conversation, has been a supporter, and we are hoping to get an actual figure amount, an actual commitment amount by Saturday. But again, we can't make promises, it's up to them. So we're just updating you and informing you about this. All of our donors and activity has been targeted for January 16th. It's been on our website, it's been on our solicitations, it's been in our presentations, PowerPoints, and communications. So that's kind of caused a problem for us as far as the deadline.
Thank you. Margaret, go ahead.
Thank you. So question about the 25,000. You said that they want to have events that highlight other parts of the school, like maybe art and performance, but the second 25 is going to go to the field, not the activities that are being highlighted in the other events?
So actually, we were conservative in our numbers on the spreadsheet because we only wanted to put down what we think that they're going to put in writing and commit to. We believe it may even be higher, but I want to be conservative and realistic with our numbers because this is what we're promising and this is what we're going to follow through on. So because that discussion with that particular bank, we have other discussions in process. None of us are professional fundraisers. So for those of you who may be aware of the fundraising world, we've learned a lot. And a lot of this is about cultivating relationships, which we have been doing. We've been learning a lot. There's a lot of support out there. We've also had to overcome some obstacles in the process of trying to do this on our volunteer time. So to get back to you, Margaret, we want to just alert that we've cultivated a relationship that could be fruitful for many things. But as far as the track and field, we know that there's a definite commitment for the 25, and the person that is having this communication suggested that they can help with the marketing and doing even 25 more to help with the matching gift piece. But we're not, so like I think Ange might have said, this is all come up within the past 48 hours. We have to, communicate more, get more things in writing. And this is the same thing with the in-kind donations. So I hope that answers your question. It's a donor that is not only interested in track and field, but is interested in investing in mutual relationships with our school community and student athletes.
Okay, so that all sounds great, but I don't know if you actually really answered my question. The additional 25,000, you said you were conservative, and I appreciate that, and I can understand that. But is the additional 25 intended to be for the track and field?
Yes.
So Mary, I can speak to that. Margaret, my most recent conversation with their representative from that bank was that this was going to be seen as a kickoff event. And so the amount that we're discussing today is specific to this option 3 of this project as it is laid out on our website and on the town website. So that is what this organization, this bank, is committing to, but they do see it as the first of many financial gifts to our school system. And as I was saying earlier, not just for athletics, but also for the arts and also for other endeavors that keep our kids in school.
Okay, thank you. And that's all great, but I still, and maybe I'm just really dense, the second 25, if they commit to it, is going to be separate from all the other stuff, is going to be for the track and field project.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
Yes.
Perfect. Do we have any more questions for the boosters? Going once, going twice. And Sarah Bess. Oh, sorry. Allison and then Sarah Bess.
Oh, I think maybe Sarah Bess was first, but
It's hard because they both came at the same time and just put your name in front of hers on the
That's okay. Sarah Bess and I will fight in the background. You mentioned going back to the in-kind gifts. I think I heard you say that it's committed, but what you're working out with the potential donor is the logistics and the details of the what and how much value is assigned to that, or is it not committed yet and you're waiting to hear that? Like, I'm just understanding, like, is it committed but you don't know yet what the value is of what they're committing, or is it that you're waiting on that confirmation on the commitment?
So it's not committed. We expect a commitment because it's, and the reason why we expect a commitment is this has been a long-term, highly supportive donor, has indicated there will be something, but we don't have a dollar amount. We don't have a commitment, and it's a donor that can do both things. But it's a matter of looking into, beneficial, whether it's going to be full cash, some cash, in kind, full in kind. So that requires them to do more information and discovery and stuff like that.
So Allison, just to get more granular with you, we were working off numbers from Weston and Sampson that were a couple of years old. We wanted to make sure that when we were asking, could you do site prep and grading and paving and how much would each of those things cost? We wanted to work with this donor to make sure that the figures that we were floating to them of our expectations were correct. And so that's really been the holdup, is that negotiation of going back and forth on, if you're just going to do site prep, if you're just going to do grading, if you're just going to do paving, what would that be, and how much of that would you be willing to do, and do you have the right certifications to do that in-kind giving? So those are kind of the sticking points there, and why we've been going back and forth with them so often.
Thank you. You actually inadvertently answered the one question I had. But Sarah Bess, go ahead.
I don't much have a question, as I just wanted to say thank you so much for all of the hours and hard work and conversations that you have done to bring this all together. It has been, like, I don't even have the words. Like, it's so amazing that this is where you've chosen to volunteer your time, and I so appreciate it. So yeah, that is my, I guess, comment, not question.
Thank you. Earth.
The complication with the in-kind when you're doing construction is that it has to be integrated in with the GC. And that in itself presents a level of complexity that we have no idea how to work out, because that would be very tricky. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be worked out, but it would be really tricky because we don't know who the GC might be. We don't even know whether the GC would even agree to work with this individual or group, or that would be an acceptable contract that the school committee would want to even sign off on. It's complex. And so I just want to caution you that it's hard for me to wrap my head around relying on that.
And so, Herb, those were all of the same things that we as a boosters were concerned with. And in conversation, in negotiation with these donors, they have done similar projects for other learning institutions in our valley and have been able to answer questions about prevailing wages and meeting the needs of the general contractors and the owner's project managers. So we feel pretty confident when they decide to allow their name to be used publicly, and we've confirmed an amount, that we will meet with you and with Doug and with Mike and make sure that everybody's on board with this donor. the scope of their work and all of their, all of the things we need.
Thank you. Mary, were you?
I just wanted to supplement that with bearing in mind our shortfall. This is the same type of donor that could meet that shortfall in cash if the in-kind didn't come through. We would love the in-kind because, as you can see, that's a humongous amount of cost and money that would be absorbed. So it would benefit us if it did work out if all the complexities did work out. But this same donor, like I indicated earlier, has the possibility to offer both in kind and large amounts of money. And as of today, we got another $1,000 to add to our bank account just overnight. So we are getting funds. So we have this, whatever it turned out to be, $75,000 shortfall. That's the amount of money that this donor could potentially offer, or more or greater, because they have the capacity to do that. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. I'll take Sarah Bess and then Margaret and then Irv.
I was just going to put my other not school committee hat on for just a minute, working in construction a lot of it for the last, 20 something years. A contractor that's willing to offer in-kind services does not give me any pause at all. If they have come forward to offer an in-kind service, I couldn't imagine them not being familiar with the rules and regulations that would go along with this contract. And if you have certain contractors, you can request that your GC work with them and participate, and part of a GC is to work together with everyone. Often when you do work with the state, the general contractor does not pick all of their subcontractors. They are picked by the state before the general contractor is picked. So if these are subcontractors that are comfortable and have the qualifications and the certifications and the licenses to do whatever kind of work it is that they're offering their services for, whatever GC is picked, they just use them. That's the way public construction works. It's not the same as when you're like building your house or something. There's different rules, and so I have personally and professionally in my other life, I see no qualms with receiving in-kind services. I don't think it should be something that is a holdup for us.
Right, and I would add to that it wouldn't be unprecedented. Trying to be careful here to fold in the fact that we have somebody that will do X, Y, Z. Like I'm thinking of other projects where there was the same exact promise that we would have somebody do this part of the project and that we're bidding out the rest of the project. I think I said that as non-muddy as I can.
It's super common.
Take it.
Sorry.
Oh,
sorry, Ben. It's how like 90% of state contracts work, is where subcontractors are decided first and then GCs are picked after. So if you already have a subcontractor that's doing something, say the excavation, I don't know, I'm just guessing, like whatever, then you can say, this is our excavator, this is our electrician, this is the fence person. It's all predetermined when they're picking the GC. So the GC knows who the contractors are.
You said that's so much less muddy than I did. Thank you. Margaret?
So I have a question. I know that the campaign was all based on artificial turf. Can you tell me whether any of these funds would be available if it's not artificial turf? I mean, have people specifically said they would not contribute if we go with artificial turf?
So that was what we presented from March of last year, that was what we were fundraising and campaigning for. And so the answer to the question is no, those funds aren't available for if the synthetic field option isn't decided upon. Yeah.
And Irv, go ahead.
I guess I'm comfortable with the GC and all of the subcontractors as long as the state would say, hey, this subcontractor has the necessary licenses and that is integrated into the rest of the bids for the work to be done. I don't, I'm more familiar with the private sector in terms of how that's done. But if that is comfortable, if that can be done, and again, I have, just knowing a little bit about construction, it blows my mind that that's possible. But anyway, the question is, and will be, what do you have in hand and that is signed down and agreed to? That's one the big question. What has it been agreed to? When is that going to be agreed to? The second one is, how much more money are we talking about that needs to actually be raised to be added to that which has already actually been raised?
So I just want to, as far as I want to clarify, are you asking about what the boosters have as far as your question is concerned?
There's $331,000 that when I came in this call that was still outstanding. And the question is, how much of that $331,000 is in hand?
So we have that broken down on the spreadsheet. In hand at the moment is $81,248. You'll see over to the right column, it shows which ones we have signed commitments for and when to expect the money for. So we had some assistance with an attorney and some fundraisers with some contracts for promises for the amounts that are on the spreadsheet. So you'll see we have actually, like I said, the spreadsheet could be updated to 275,858 as far as what we have promised and signed agreements for. There's a couple of exceptions. That $50,000 where we need the written commitment. We have a oral commitment from that local lender that we had discussed a little earlier. The $81,248 in hand that's cash received, that's in hand.
All right, so the cash to receive is $81,000. And out of the other outstanding, how much is remaining that has been actually signed on, committed to by a donor, i.e. they have said to you via letter, email, text, or whether that they are guaranteeing to get this money?
Okay, so on the sheet, over to the far right, it says expected committed. Let's see, we didn't break down further. We just broke it down to what we have in hand and what we have expected. And you'll see, so let's see, anything received online by Zephy is just cash in hand. We've received checks. I don't know if we have checks in our PO box at the moment. The last our treasurer Stephanie checked it, may have been last week. She's been doing some things with some students, but in any event, so you'll see there's a donor under individuals and families. And I just want to say those are initials that match up with our spreadsheet. They're even pseudonym initials just because we want to protect our donors' privacy. So this is for us to be able to match up with, and so we know who these figures are actually from. So you'll see, let's just say line 8, I don't know if you see a line 8 on the spreadsheet where it says amount 50,000, received 25,000, remainder expected June 30th. And a lot of these donors obviously have their own personal funds and tax reasons for when the money is coming in. Here's one that's 10,000 expected March 31st, 2023. And if it says expected, that's because we have a signed commitment. I hope I didn't lose you guys. And then, so we don't have I'm just going to highlight local bank. It says need written commitment. So we do need that written commitment. That was within the past 48 hours. let's see, then we have this $100,000. We do have a written commitment expected June 1st, 2023. There's one that's received 25,000 in kind. That's, as we've talked about, is being cultivated. And we expect a number answer, something Saturday is our hope. But again, I'm not promising because I'm not the one giving this money. So then we have a couple other local foundations. We have quite a few requests and asks still out. Part of this, and Irv, you raised a really good point in that we signed on to this not just to fill the gap of 331,000, and we've been pushing and advocating for this, what we think is an option that's going to fulfill many needs, more needs for our student athletes in our community than the other options with regard to ADA compliance and equity. So that's why from day one, we said we were going to advocate for option 3, and we're raising these funds. We got to, we're very close to the 331, but not quite. And as you can see, we have the cash in hand and we have commitment letters or signed commitment letters, promises from these other donors. And so should this project continue to go forward, we had signed up to build a contingency fund so that this is done correctly, so that there's proper insurance, there's proper maintenance, so that this project actually starts and finishes successfully. I'm a longtime resident, neighbor for 30 years, and I want to see a project that is fully it's funded and it's taken care of, and that we have a commitment for this. And so that's part of our discussions when we're talking with some of these foundations, writing grants. And so if this does get the green light and go forward, our jobs as the boosters, the handful of us who are working tirelessly to get people to contribute to this, our job's not over. And it's not over until we meet our goal. And it is $2.5 million. We're not promising, but this is what we're doing. So we can't, I can't sign off and tell you I'm going to be able to get this. We are volunteers. We all have full-time jobs, and I'm taking personal time to be able to answer these questions.
Mary, I really, really appreciate your answers and your honesty and transparency. Obviously, for us, our job is to, in voting on this, to ensure that we're doing something that is fiscally responsible. And so for when I look at this, I say, all right, how much do they have in hand? How much is guaranteed to come in? When I say guaranteed, I mean it's more than the letter of commitment says, yes, we are definitely going to give you this money in June. And that's an ironclad commitment. Without those kind of things, it's very difficult for me to consider voting for something that might possibly put the school committee and the school district on the hook for funds that we really right now do not have.
Thank you. Jennifer, and then Peter, and then I'll call on anyone who hasn't spoken already, and then I think we can get into the motions. Jennifer, go ahead.
So I don't have any more fundraising related questions for the boosters. I'm ready to speak if you'd like. When you're ready to move on, I would like to speak.
Yeah, shortly, hopefully. Peter, go ahead.
I'd also like to make a motion, but I'll wait until you call on me and for permission to do that.
Fair. And is there anyone else who hasn't asked any questions who would like to ask questions regarding fundraising? I'll take Margaret real quick, and then we can.
So this is not necessarily a fundraising question. This is about the cost of the project. So we're looking at, assuming that all the fundraising comes in, we're looking at having $3.7 million, but I believe the cost of the project is actually more than $3.7 million. And Mike, we haven't really talked, I don't think, about where the rest of the money is going to come from. I believe the number was something like 4.7 million. I wondered if Doug or Mike could maybe speak to that.
So let me just stop presenting because that was getting in the way. So Doug, do you want to just explain perhaps the second part of your memo? Because I think the first part you already read, but perhaps reading down the second part of your memo would clarify it. I don't know how you feel about that, Doug.
Yeah, let me pull back up in front of myself.
I can project it as well.
Yeah, I think that I think that when just as a just a reminder from last March when the school committee voted the original authorization, there was the target that was in the debt authorization was clearly less than what was necessary for the full project cost, and so that it allows for continued and ongoing fundraising and of various types, whether it be a particular ask to member towns of our region or additional donation. This was just a for lack of a term, sort of a litmus test of whether we're close enough to move ahead with the larger and more expensive projects. So I think that there's the level necessary for the pursuit of a particular option relative to debt authorization. There's obviously this, to your point, the other questions, what's the total project cost? But there's nothing that precludes, again, additional sources to come and support the project after the date of January 16th.
So what you're saying is we could have ongoing fundraising after January 16th that could go towards the project.
Correct.
But we have no guarantee of how much money we're going to raise. Or does it have to be raised by the time the project begins?
So I'll answer that with a statement when talking with bond counsel about this a little bit. The school district cannot commit to spending more than it has, whether it's for buying, desks for the classrooms or doing this kind of project or anything else. So, when we go to, write contracts, whether they be for design work or construction work, we will have to have sufficient resources to meet the needs of that at that point in time. But we don't necessarily have to have all of it now because we aren't writing the contract today.
Right.
Okay. So the fundraisers would be able to continue doing their work after the 16th. Okay. Thank you.
Perfect. And at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Thanks. At this time, I'm going to move motion number 2 from our meeting packet and the board docs site. I will make the motion and then I will speak to it. I would like to make a motion to rescind the motion from March 15th, 2022 regarding the track and field project and to approve the following. The district shall appropriate the amount of $1,500,000 to pay costs of relocating the track to a north-south orientation with a natural grass playing field interior, relocating the field events to adjoining field space, improving access to the facility, installing perimeter fencing and pathway systems to provide ADA accessibility to the track facility, new field lighting and irrigation facilities, and for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto. And that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the chair of the school committee, is authorized to borrow said amount under MGL Chapter 71, Section 16D, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the district therefore. Any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, thereby reducing the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs by a like amount. So the reason I'm making motion number 2
It
is
needs
that
second,
when I look
point
at,
of
We
order.
need a second first. I'll second. And then-
thank you. When I look at the 3 motions that we have, that we've posted in the agenda, it seems clear to me that motion number 1, that we have not raised the $2.2 million in funds or in-kind services. So it doesn't seem to me that that motion is appropriate. When I look at number 3, it doesn't sound to me like the boosters are attesting that they have committed and received donations totaling at least $331,000. It sounds to me like the boosters have said they have not received, they cannot attest that they have received and committed donations. They have told us that they have 81,000 in hand. And if I look at the spreadsheet that Dr. Morris emailed us earlier, they have possibly another 140,000 in committed, but that still doesn't get us to the 331,000. So it doesn't sound to me that they are attesting to what's written in motion number 3. Motion number 2, which is also represents option 2 in the track and field project, is a good plan that will address many of the issues that our athletes and our coaches and our athletic staff have discussed and have asked us, have begged us to address. It doesn't give us artificial turf, but it's a really good plan. I feel like at any time, but especially now, I think it's important for us as a district to live within our means. The artificial turf project is a very expensive project, and the fact is that we simply can't afford it. It's not an affordable project. We have raised close to $3.4 million in municipal funds, not including the private fundraising, and that's close to being enough for option 2. It doesn't get us all the way there, and there will still need to be some more funds raised for option number 2, but it gets us really close. And I feel super grateful to the boosters for all the work that they've done and all the fundraising that they've done. But my feeling is that we never should have put them in this position where a district project is dependent on private fundraising. We should live within our means, and we need to embark on a project that we can afford. And that, I believe, is motion number 2 and option 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, I disagree with most of what Jennifer said. I don't think it's a good plan. I don't think it meets student needs, and I don't support the motion. I do want to be very conscious of time. We've communicated very stringently to members that this meeting is supposed to end at 4, and we have other motions on the table. And so I would like the disposition of the committee on this motion and other motions to be the will of the committee and not just a logistical side effect of how much discussion we had and when we had. So I just want to ask the chair to make sure that we have enough time in the next 11 minutes to be able to vote on this motion and vote on the next motion.
Thank you. Margaret, quickly.
I think I'm in here twice.
Margaret, I'm going to remove one of you, okay?
Thank you, Mike.
You should be good. Oh, you're muted, but otherwise there's only one of you. Margaret, you're muted.
Margaret, you might be signed in on 2 different browsers or 2 different windows. If you're able to minimize one browser or.
Yeah, and I can't unmute anyone. I don't have that power.
If you want to throw it in chat real quick, I do want to be mindful of time. Like,
Margaret, you should.
Mike, are you able to unmute her yourself as the host? No.
Margaret, you could try holding your space bar. That might unmute you. You might have to hold it or tap it. I'm not sure.
But that typically does work.
No.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, this is Craig. Can I ask a quick question while we're working this out?
Yep.
Yeah, I got disconnected earlier and dialed back in. Sorry that I'm not on the video. So the motion 3 says the boosters attest that the 331 has been raised. Has there been that statement made? And if not, and we approve motion 3, and maybe if this is premature question, we can come back to it when motion 3 has been made. I'm curious what happens.
That might be a little premature.
That's fine. Okay, no problem. I will hold.
Yeah, let me try. Margaret is logging out and logging back in. That's
sincere apologies. I don't know how I got back, but I just did, and I'm not echoing. God, what was I going to say? Sorry for the confusion. I guess I would like to read just a very brief statement at this point, if I may.
Yes, very brief.
Okay. I support the track and field project with a natural turf field. In 8 to 10 years, a lot of money will be needed, maybe almost $1 million, to replace and dispose of the old artificial turf. We could save that money by not doing artificial turf, and that, along with some of the savings we could be gained by installing natural turf, which is significantly less expensive, into creating and maintaining a new field and a first-rate track, as well as renovating the other fields which were in the Weston and Sampson report to be done, but nothing has been said about doing that. The city of Springfield is doing organic natural turf without using pesticides. I would like to see us provide our children with safe and healthy recreational and athletic spaces that do not contaminate the ground on which they play and which do not bring contamination to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Beth, real quick. And
I appreciate all of the discussion. I know we all have big feelings on all of the things that are happening with this project. But in interest of all of our time, I very respectfully, was it you say call the question? We just vote on it? Okay, I very respectfully call the question.
Right, that being said, we will go around and take a roll call vote.
Just to clarify, are we voting on calling the question or are we voting on the motion?
Voting on calling the question.
Voting to end discussion.
Yep. I'll start. Margaret?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Jennifer?
No.
Irv?
Aye.
Sarah Beth?
Aye.
Allison?
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
And me, Ben, also aye. We will now take a roll call vote on the motion. Margaret?
Margaret, no.
Peter?
No.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Irv?
No.
Sarah Beth?
No.
Allison?
Allison, no.
Craig?
Craig, no.
And Ben, no. Margaret, do you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I don't know. Is it possible? I got so flustered with the not being able to get back into the meeting that I voted differently than I wanted to vote. So is it possible to change my vote?
Peter, real quick, yes.
Okay.
It's chair's discretion, and so you could certainly say yes.
Then my vote is no.
Wait.
I think you meant to say your vote is yes.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Peter. You can
Okay.
tell how flustered I am. Yes, thank you.
All right, we're moving right along here.
Does not pass. 2 yes, 6 no. Peter, go ahead.
May I make a motion and then speak to the motion?
Yes, after a second, yes.
Okay.
I'll second it. Or how does this work?
What?
Yes,
I'm just.
Wait a minute. Didn't we
So I was just asking if I could please make a motion. I was making a motion to make a motion.
Just vote on the question,
We voted on the question and then the motion.
and then we defeated the motion. Is that correct? Those two things have occurred.
Correct. And now we're discussing motion 3.
All right.
Peter, go ahead.
Sorry for the confusion. I move that, provided that the Amherst Hurricanes athletic boosters attests to the Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee chair on or before January 16th, 2023, that they're committed and received donations total at least $331,000. The Amherst Pelham Regional School Committee determines that at least $2.2 million worth of funds or in-kind services have been secured or committed to contribute to the payment of the costs of relocating the Amherst Regional High School track to a north-south orientation with a synthetic turf playing field interior, relocating the field events area to adjoining field space, improving access to the facility, installing perimeter fencing and pathway systems to provide ADA accessibility to the track facility, new field lighting and irrigation facilities, and for the payment of other costs incidental and related thereto from the following sources. Amherst Town Council appropriated CPA funds $957,500. Amherst Town Council appropriated free cash of $900,000. Pelham Town Meeting appropriated CPA funds of $11,500, and donations solicited by the Amherst Hurricanes Athletics Boosters Incorporated. And that the committee requests the superintendent pursue that option as articulated in the debt authorization voted by the school committee on March 15th, 2022.
Second.
Really briefly, in respect for people's time, we committed to and voted a deadline for the boosters to raise funds, and that was January 16th, not today. And so that's the reason why I suggest this amendment to the motion. So I think that's what we committed to. It's what our member towns were informed about when they approved the regional debt authorization. So I think that's one reason to do this. The other is that it's is what the boosters have told us, so that they have a lot of irons in the fire right now, and some very, very big irons that would put them way over the top for the funds needed to get to 2.2 million. So I feel like we need to give them that chance at the very least. We're not giving them months and months. We're saying, here we're just supporting our original deadline. The Doug's memo talked about suitable assurances that in our judgment funds are available. Well, in my judgment, the hard work and the conservative estimates and the attestation by the boosters leadership is the suitable assurance that I need that funds are available. And we're not even talking about the many hundreds of thousands of dollars that they expect will come in the coming months. So that's why I'm comfortable supporting this motion.
A real quick clarifying question, if anyone can answer it. My question is, if the conditions of this motion are not met on or before January 16th, would it be possible to revisit the previous motion? If anybody has an answer to that. Peter, go ahead.
So I think probably at this hour, it's difficult for any of us to say with certainty what would happen under various scenarios. Other than I'm sure we all want to do something with the fields and we would figure it out. But I don't think there's anything firm that any one of us could say right now about exactly what might or might not be technically possible.
Thank you. Mike?
I was just going to say I can certainly add it to the agenda. We're fine on open meeting piece for the regional meeting that exists on Tuesday.
All right. Allison?
I just want to sort of build, and I'll be brief. We've said since March of last year that the timeline was January 16th. And it was like, less than 10 days ago that we said, oh, oops, it's going to be Thursday, January 12th. And I know, like, if we had said this back in March or even September, that might have been okay. But I think, moving the goalpost, as some people have described this, I think is reason enough in my mind to give that extra time. That said, I also would be comfortable voting on motion 1 because given all of the things, and it's not just irons in the fire, we've heard the boosters say repeatedly that they expect these donations, multiple in-kind donations to come in. It's not a commitment, and I appreciate and applaud and thank them for their conservatism in sort of reporting what is committed, because that's what we've asked for. And yet, as Peter has said, our wording is, have we determined that $2.2 million has been raised? We are more than 97% of the way. I think on my calculator, 97.5% towards that 2.2 million. Do we feel like the remaining 55,000 can be raised and will be raised? I feel 100% confident that that $55,000 can and will be raised, whether it's cash or in-kind donations, just on the multiple things that are expected. And it's just a matter of getting that commitment and that piece of paper or that email that says that that's the case. So I am, like I said, I would be comfortable supporting even motion 1, but for those reasons cited, I support giving those extra couple of days to maybe get the cash donation. I heard the boosters say that one of the in-kind donors could also be cash, and maybe they can't commit and figure out the details to make a commitment on the in-kind, but maybe they can get the $55,000 in cash. I think the one thing that I would say is, does it have to be the exact 55,200 and whatever? I mean, I think that's the danger, and sort of, I think we allowed ourselves that room. Like, if we're $5 short, are we really going to say no and kill this project at this point? So, for all of those reasons, I support giving the extra time and doing that, and not sort of letting our mistake in looking at the calendar back when we made this date, and our own personal schedules and unwillingness to meet on a weekend to be what gets in the way of getting this across the finish line.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? Jennifer?
I just wanted to say I'm perfectly happy to meet on a weekend if necessary. I don't recall being asked that, so I'd be happy to have another earlier meeting. I am not comfortable with motion 3 because what I heard from the two members of the boosters were that the funds were not committed, the in-kind donations were not committed, that they were making no promises. In fact, the email that we received from them that the superintendent forwarded to us said that they didn't raise the funds. Even if, and in addition, even if the expected column was the received column, even if we had the $274,850 in hand, that still doesn't get us to the $331,000. So I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable with this motion, with agreeing to something that they haven't attested to. There's still 4 days till January 16th. But they would need to not just. I don't see how how they're going to get to that figure in the next 4 days. But as I said, like, no one asked me if I'd be willing to meet on a weekend, which I am willing to do. I don't know about the rest of you on our staff, but I'm really super uncomfortable voting for motion 3, so I will be voting no. Thank you.
Sarah Beth?
Like last time, I very respectfully call the question in like we're over our time budget. So
second.
Thank you. Quick roll call vote on that. Margaret?
Margaret, no.
This is Ben. Can you clarify what we're voting on?
Yes, this is the call the vote right now is to call the question.
Yes.
Discussion. Okay. Thank you. Peter?
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Irv,
Yes.
Sarah Beth,
Yes.
Allison,
Yes.
Craig, sorry,
Yes.
and Ben, yes. Passes unanimously. We're ending discussion, and now we will vote on motion 3. Margaret,
Margaret, no.
Peter,
Yes.
Jennifer,
No.
Irv,
Yes.
Sarah Beth,
Sarah Beth, yes.
Allison,
Allison, yes.
Craig,
Craig, yes.
and Ben, yes. The motion passes 6-2. Thank you all for your time. And Mike, can you share the public comment document?
Yep, I can.
Okay, thank you so much. And then afterwards we'll take public comment from anybody who's present if that applies. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. Is there anyone who is present here who wishes to make a public comment? You can raise your hand and I will acknowledge. Mary Clays.
Hi, before my phone battery runs out, I just want to thank you for giving us the agreed upon January 16th. We're energized and want to follow through with what we committed to. And I do thank all of you for your acknowledgement and support. This has been a hard process, but we will do our very best and come back to you with what we raise by January 16th.
Thank you. And Maria Kapicki.
Thank you. I think the regional school committee needs to do a lot of hard thinking about what you just did. You have completely abandoned your fiscal responsibility here. You are demanding no proof, no documentation. You are letting boosters negotiate on behalf of the town and district in terms of contracts. You're acting in direct conflict with your original motion by having attestations and in-kind and all kinds of stuff supplant what you actually voted on, and multiple municipal bodies based their actions upon that motion. So I think you're going to have a lot to answer to with what you're doing. The cost of option 3 is far higher, and the simple answer is that to how much it's going to cost is at least $5 to $6 million. And that's not counting a bunch of unsubstantiated claims that the boosters are making about what will be a part of that, and the actual information about that, which has been asked but not given. If you do not pivot to option 2 now, what you're going to do is to delay this, and you're acting actually absolutely against the needs of the students that you claim to be supporting. This is going to drag on. It's not going to come to fruition, and you have the money to do an incredible thing right now. But I fear that you are throwing this away to make a bad fiscal, a bad environmental, a bad health and safety decision, and it's not going to pan out. And I might add that you are acting in direct contradiction to 2 boards of health. So you're going to have to explain that as well. So I think the regional school committee needs to do some deep thinking about this and to change your path now. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any other public comments? You can raise your hand now. Okay, if there are no further public comments, I will entertain a motion.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that. And we can take a roll call vote. Sarah Bess?
Sarah Beth, aye.
Peter?
Peter, aye.
Margaret?
Margaret, I.
Jennifer?
Yes.
Craig is there.
Oh, Craig, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Craig, aye.
And Ben, aye. We are now adjourned. Thank you.